All right, welcome everyone to our ROCS grad staffing webinar series. We are very excited about the opportunity today to talk to the Honorable John Hardister. Many of you have been aware of some of the work that he is doing but you may not know what he's been doing behind the scenes in terms of making the North Carolina economy great for everyone involved. And it is very rare that I've seen working in this talent space that you would get together educational leaders, elected officials in the government sector, and businesses together to have a conversation. That seems to always be the trick, but it is so vitally important for that to occur. So we're very excited today to talk to John to give us a little bit of an insight about what he is doing there in Raleigh and how this is impacting employers, job seekers, higher ed institutions, and the like. So I appreciate everyone for joining us today. Again, this will be recorded. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and enter them in the Q&A, and I'll be taking a look at it. We have a number of prepared questions for John. Hope this will be a great conversation. And we are going to wrap this up about 11:40, 11:45, so John can make another appointment in his busy schedule. So, John, welcome. How are you today?
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks for having me. Doing well.
Great. Well, I know you've been doing a lot of interesting work here during the session, and maybe you could just give us an overview about what new past legislation has occurred this cycle and how it's going to impact higher ed and the workforce in North Carolina.
Sure. So the number one thing is the state budget. That's what funds the university system and higher education. We've passed the state budget in the House. It's in the Senate now. I think the most notable thing perhaps is that there's not been an increase in tuition in 7 years now. We've been 7 years in a row without increasing tuition within the UNC system. I don't know if any other state can say that. Now, basically, that's a testament to what we've done to fund our university system, the enrollment. There has been a little bit of adjustment in the enrollment funding. It was done by the Board of Governors to focus a little bit more on undergraduate funding and on graduation rates and graduation within a 4 to 5 year time frame. But that was done by the Board of Governors. At the state level, the General Assembly, what we've done is we've ensured that universities are receiving all the funding they need to not increase their tuition. What that's done is it's kept higher education more accessible. The other thing there too, of course, is the NC Promise program. We now have 4 schools that are part of the NC Promise program where tuition is only $500 a semester. And in addition, another thing is across the entire UNC system, fees cannot increase by more than 3% each year, not a semester, but each year collectively. Fee increases on students, because that's what would potentially happen in the past is you don't raise tuition, but you just raise fees. Well, we've put a limit to that as well. And then finally, and this is also in the state budget, the need-based scholarship program. We all hear about Pell Grants, and that's federal. The need-based scholarship is a state program. We have about approximately $100 million recurring for for public universities. And then I believe it's about $88 million recurring for private institutions. So if you seek to attend a private institution like I did, Greensboro College or Wake Forest or Duke University, Campbell, so have you. I mean, there are 36 private colleges, universities across the state. That need-based scholarship is for middle to low-income students. Many of those are first generation. And there's an increase in state budget this year for students who are to enroll in a private college or university. So a lot of good things going on. I think we have the best, and I'm not just saying this because I'm biased. I honestly believe we have the best higher education system in the country.
It'd be hard to argue, I will tell you that. And you bring up a good point, and we hear this a lot in higher ed about the enrollment cliff that is upon us just because of the demography of the U.S., where we're having fewer individuals being born and the ripple effect. Folks in higher education were expecting this for quite some time, but then this little thing called COVID kind of threw a little curveball in the way individuals wanted to learn and the impact of that. Um, what what are some of the challenges that you're seeing from university presence? What are they telling you kind of post-COVID with this enrollment cliff, despite all of the wonderful things that you've created in terms of accessibility from the financial picture? What are some of the other challenges that they're facing right now?
Well, the challenge is enrollment, and it's not just specific to schools in North Carolina, but this is happening all across the country. There are several state universities, including here in the area that I represent, Guilford County. UNC Greensboro has an enrollment decline of somewhere around 10%, if not higher, over the last couple of years. And we have other schools like UNC Asheville's down, Pembroke is down, a couple others are down. And I think private institutions are also experiencing that same issue. A lot of it has to do with demography, like you said. I mean, birth rates are dropping. And then, of course, COVID was a huge issue for everybody. It's hard to, to overstate that. I don't know to what extent that is affecting enrollment moving forward. I know a lot of employers require you to have a 4-year degree, but there's now some talk about some employers not requiring you to have a 4-year degree. I know at the state level, we're actually taking some action to remove 4-year degrees for certain state jobs and job opportunities at the state level to increase accessibility, which is actually not a bad thing, because not everybody needs to have a 4-year degree. So I think it's good to take a holistic look at that. But that's probably the biggest challenge is, for universities, when enrollment drops, there's a commensurate drop in their funding. So, I mean, that's certainly a challenge. And then also you have to be very nimble and make a lot of adjustments as to what type of degrees are necessary, for today's economy, what type of degrees are yielding employment upon graduation. That's something we always have to take a look at. But a lot of jobs are coming to the state. If you look in the Triad region specifically, we have companies like Toyota, Boom, Supersonic. You go down to Chatham County, you've got VinFast, Wolfspeed. All these companies are coming into North Carolina. So I know what the system office is doing. The UNC system office is taking a really close look at that and encouraging the universities and the community colleges as well to collaborate with private companies.
And you've been so integrally involved in these announcements that are being made, and it's amazing when you see the number of jobs that are being created and brought to the area. What are some of the things that the companies have shared with you as to why they made the decision to come here? What really was the factor, if there was a key theme in some of these announcements?
Yeah, I think it's a collection of factors. So one is our economy, our economic environment. North Carolina is very solid. I mean, we have relatively low taxes. We've reformed our tax code. We've simplified the tax code. We're a pro-business state. We're not a heavily regulated state. So that's certainly one thing. We have a great transportation system as well. I know it can be frustrating when roads are under construction, but the fact is we do have a really solid transportation network in our state. Also, the workforce. I mean, companies, I'd say that would be the number one issue now. When I speak to companies, they, in many cases, can't get enough people to come to work. But when they look at North Carolina, they see this is a state where you have a robust system of higher education. You've got a great university system, both public and private. The community college system is fantastic. A lot of advanced manufacturing relates to the community college system. A lot of truck drivers, for example. We have a great program at Guilford Technical Community College where you can take a class and get your CDL, and truck drivers make good money. Things like HVAC, welding, robotics, things like that. Those are a lot of those are associate degrees or other types of education that you can obtain at a community college, but the university level too. I mean, we have a lot of research and development that's going on in North Carolina in the medical field and the biopharmaceutical field. So I mean, we run the gamut in North Carolina, and we're also we're geographically positioned very well on the East Coast with our network of of interstates and ports in Wilmington and Charleston, up in Virginia. So there's just a lot of things going for us in North Carolina.
We're talking to John Hardister, key figure in the North Carolina General Assembly, and we're talking a lot about these economic initiatives that have occurred here in the last few months in the news. If you have a specific question for John, go ahead and chat that in. I'll get to it here once we get through the questions. Would love to hear from you. But on your point, John, what we're hearing with a lot of employers is the importance of certifications and credentials, that is becoming more and more of a thing moving forward. In fact, our company ROCS partners with the Collegiate Employment Research Institute out of Michigan State, where it was formerly held, and we conduct a survey every year of employers across the nation. We work with 200 or 300 different schools. And that is the one thing that continues to emerge every year, is the importance of certifications and credentials in order to meet this demand much quicker than maybe what you could get going for a 4-year degree and so forth. What are some of the skill sets that these new companies that are coming to the area tell you that they're looking for right now? Is it hard skills like credentials and certificates? Is it a mix of soft skills like lack of absenteeism and passing drug tests and things of these natures? What are they telling you?
It's all the above, Stuart. Honestly, I mean, it really is. It depends on the company. I mean, if you look at, let's just take a company like, let's say HondaJet as an example. So they're based out of Greensboro, Piedmont Tri-International Airport. And just to take a quick segue, I think aviation is a major emerging industry in North Carolina. Especially if you look here in the Triad, where you have, like I said, HondaJet, you've got HAECO, Cessna, Boom Supersonic. I would really keep your eye on aviation. But let's just take HondaJet, for example. So they do a lot of research and development in the area, the aerospace, realm. And so that's where you need to have advanced degrees, education. A lot of those are, graduate degrees. Some of them could be, PhDs in certain cases. A lot of legal issues there related to aviation. So you're going to have, law degrees, things like that. But for like on the manufacturing floor, a lot of those are credentialed degrees and associate degrees, things like that. So that, I think, is definitely an area where we have to focus in North Carolina, because you have the senior level, research and development type job positions where you have to have extensive education. But then you have, those that where if you're on the manufacturing floor, you have to know how to operate a machine. You have to know how to build something. So, I mean, HondaJet's a good example where if you go talk to them, they're going to tell you we need it all. Same thing with Toyota, the mega site they're building just a few miles from where I'm sitting right now. They're going to tell you the same thing. And then also close to where I'm sitting right now, we have a company called Machine Specialties. It's a welding company, advanced welding. And they do contract work for companies like NASA, Lockheed Martin, SpaceX. And I mean, these are jobs where a lot of these students are in their early 20s and all they have is a 2-year degree, and they're making really good money because they do advanced welding and robotics operations, things like that. So if you talk to the companies across North Carolina, it'll vary, but pretty much it's all the above.
So just got a question from someone, and this kind of fits into the next question I had, and that was, with all of these announcements of jobs coming up, my question was going to be, do we have enough people to fill these particular roles? Now, we know that a lot more folks are leaving from the Northeast and so forth for a variety of reasons. But do we have enough people? And then the second question is, where are we going to house these people? How are we going to get them affordable housing in order for that to work?
Yeah, so
easy ones for you there, John.
Yeah.
Easy ones.
Absolutely. I'll see if I can swing at this one.
Okay.
So yes, we have enough people. Absolutely. I mean, we're a growing state. So birth rates are down a little bit, but North Carolina is one of the fastest growing states in the country. There are enough people. It's a matter of getting them educated. Now, what we've learned is what we have to start doing, and I should have mentioned before, we do have a very strong K-12 system as well. We've invested in a lot of career and technical education within the K-12 system. We are doing the best we can to sharpen our curriculum, to focus on, core subjects like math and science and, reading comprehension. COVID, you mentioned that before, has had an impact. There is learning loss, particularly at the K-12 level that we're working to address with summer school, tutoring, things like that. What we've learned, though, is it's not only educating students on different career pathways, but parents as well. Now, for students, you really have to start middle school. Like high school, that's great. Could be a little too late there. We need to start really in middle school where these students need to be made aware of the different pathways to success.
Right.
But what we've learned too is we have to educate the parents that your son or daughter doesn't necessarily have to go to four-year school. And if they do, there's great opportunities there, and it's accessible and it's affordable, but there are different pathways. So that's one thing. We have to work really hard at making sure that if you look at our modern day economy and where you see the economy going the next 5, 10 years and jobs that are coming here, what kind of education is needed? Encourage those students to look at different pathways. So that's one. Now for the housing, that's a huge issue. It's not an easy one to address. There are multiple issues there. I mean, obviously, inflation's a big one. The cost of building is way up. Then you have local zoning issues that are causing some consternation. I could give you examples of that. We're looking at, is there some way maybe for the state to streamline zoning to maybe encourage more approval at the local level for housing? Because what's happening is a lot of the larger cities are getting maxed out in development. So developers are looking, into places that are unincorporated or areas that have a small town that has zoning restrictions. Not an easy shell to crack, to be honest with you, but that's really probably the issue. One of the issues that worries me the most, because you have jobs coming in, but if people don't have anywhere to live, that's going to drive up housing cost. People are going to have a lot of difficult situations commuting. And then honestly, it could start to hurt if companies look, say, at North Carolina, hey, this is a business friendly state, but there's not enough housing. So, I mean, that's a difficult issue.
Yeah, that is one. As you know, John, I live in Oak Ridge and serve on a town. And Oak Ridge, I think, has done a great job at the steady growth. But now even that more rural suburb of around Greensboro, Winston-Salem is beginning to run out of space as well. And we've seen property values increase significantly over that time. And I won't mention our neighbors, some of the things that they're going through in Summerfield right now. But yeah, it's a big issue moving forward, especially for the younger workers that are having a lot of student loan debt, are trying to think, can I even afford a house at this pace, on top of car and everything else that is out there. So it is a very significant, complex issue, like you said, we cannot ignore, because they all go together there with that. So one question that I also received from someone recently is that they said that, how do I go about finding a list of whether it's K-12 schools and career and technical education or community college or four-year institution, if I know I want a specific skill? So this one particular company says, I'm really looking for people that understand graphics, graphic design, and so forth. Is there any resource that the state has that will allow a consumer or a constituent to go in and see, as a company, go in and see which schools are producing individuals with this particular skill set? Is something like that exist?
I think so. And if not, it should be. So I'm hoping that on the UNC system website and the community college website, they have that information on there. If not, I'm gonna talk to them because that makes perfect sense that if you're looking at those skill sets, what schools are providing education in that area. I know if you go to a community college website or a UNC schools website, they probably have some of it there, but it should be aggregated on the system website. So I would certainly need to check into that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And, all of what we've been talking about is this mix between creating good governance at the state level, is working on some of these economic development initiatives to create more opportunities for the citizens of North Carolina, working with our institutions of higher education and community colleges and K-12 to provide the best future for our citizens. But you're looking for a new challenge, and you will be running for the North Carolina Labor Commissioner here this fall. So what is it what is a North Carolina Labor Commissioner? What is that role? Why are you doing it? And how can you expand on what you've already done within this particular role moving forward?
Yeah, so great question. It is a council of state position. We have several statewide elected offices in North Carolina. Now, in a lot of other states, the labor secretary is appointed, kind of like at the federal level. But
Mhm.
North Carolina, we elect multiple statewide offices. This is one. Everyone knows it because your picture's in the elevator. That's what everybody thinks
Better
of.
elevator than post office, right?
Right. 100% better elevator than post office, no question about it. So you may recall Shuri Berry was the labor commissioner for 20 years in North Carolina. She retired a couple years ago. My good friend Josh Dobson ran and got elected labor commissioner. He since has announced he's not running again. But when he made that announcement, I thought about it and I thought this is a position that I'm qualified for, and it's important. So what does the office actually do? What are the responsibilities? Well, there are a few things. I mean, one is OSHA, workplace safety. That's probably number one. You have OSHA inspectors have to go out to, a lot of those are advanced manufacturing facilities where you have to comply with OSHA. You want to inspect those facilities and make sure they're operating safely, but not in a way that's adversarial. You want inspectors who are pro-business, who understand they're there to collaborate, not to get in the way, and to promote safety. Second are inspections for a variety of industrial equipment, not just elevators, but also escalators, mines, boilers, quarries, amusement rides, H2A housing. And then also the department can choose whether or not to couple with certain federal standards and regulations that are offered by the federal government. And that could be something like curtailing hours in agriculture when it's a certain temperature outside, vaccine mandates, things like that. But the office also has a seat on the community college board. So when you talk about workforce development, as labor commissioner, that's something I take very seriously. And if I am elected, I will intend to take that seat, because the way it works is it could be the secretary or the secretary's designee. I would actually like to take that seat myself and be on the board and find out what can we do to help sharpen the focus of our community college system, to make it more successful, for workforce development. So that's basically what what the position entails. And then of course your picture ends up in an elevator. So the job involves a lot of ups and downs.
You've been using that one, I can tell.
Yeah.
So you mentioned community colleges again, and we have this conversation with parents and higher ed and employers and so forth. Why do you think more individuals do not go that community college route for the first 2 years and transfer over to one of our higher ed institutions, a 4-year higher ed institutions? Why don't more people see the cost savings, see the opportunities that you can have of having a community college degree and a 4-year degree?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great route. I had friends who did that. I have the children of friends, they're doing that currently, people I know. It's a great route to do that. I think the problem is people just don't think about it. So what we're doing is we have asked the State Education Assistance Authority, which is state agency funded by General Assembly, to take a look at that and to promote it. And so, we're talking earlier about, how we have a situation where we need to educate not just students, but parents. And as far as students are concerned, not just at the high school level, middle school level as well. That's something we're actually talking about inculcating in that process, so that, students think and parents think, hey, wait a minute, you could go the 2-year route at a community college, which is less money. You can get an associate's degree. You can actually get a lot of those credits that'll transfer and
Right.
save you money. And it's good for the universities too, because then they're going to get more students coming in through that pipeline who've got those the pre-required courses out of the way, and who could go in and matriculate for 2 years and complete a degree. So this plays into the whole conversation about different pathways to education, to success. So really, it's honestly just about information. We have to provide students and also parents with information. That's something that the State Education Assistance Authority will be working on, and we provided them with funding to do that.
So very important. And then one of the big things in higher education that we're seeing a lot right now is this whole notion of return on investment. with what's been occurring at the Department of Education about student loan forgiveness. That topic is very prominent right now. But what's interesting to me is what you were saying with like machine specialties there is you've got people have the 2-year degree, probably very little investment versus what they're now making at 19, 20 years old and an hourly rate. That whole conversation of return on investment, I think, is not going away, is only going to continue. And when you look at that across the lens of, again, 2-year, 4-year, depending on the industry and so forth, it makes a lot of sense if we can frame the conversation around return on investment and start with the end in mind, as the great book Built to Last talks about. Start with the end in mind when you're going into higher education. I know in Virginia, from when I was working there at Virginia Tech, we had access to a lot of information through Tremure Economics. Do you have a lot of that data available for the public to understand what the demand is for a particular degree or an industry in a particular area, how much you're getting? Is that information's available to public?
It is available. Yeah. So you can request that from the university system, from the community college system. That information is available. So we know what degrees are most in demand. We are tracking graduation rates, but also job placement. That's critical. And like I said, you have to begin with the end in mind. You have to know where you want to go. But to kind of figure all that out, you have to figure out, well, which jobs are in demand and where are graduates getting job placement. That's something that we've been asking for over the last several years. And I have to say the system office for the community college and the UNC system has done a great job aggregating all that data that we're now taking a look at. And it's compelling. And there's actually a lot of really good things going on now. I know sometimes we talk about the challenges, we talk about, what some of the, future challenges might be. But the fact is, if you look at the state of North Carolina with all the job announcements that are coming here, we're doing something right.
Yes.
So we have to really, cultivate that and capitalize on it. And I think we are. Like I'll give you another example. So I took a tour of the Publix distribution center. Publix grocery store has a distribution center just a few miles down the road from where I live. And they have people, it's like I can't remember, it's like 1 million square foot facility, but multifaceted facility, very technical. Like, for example, bananas. Who knew that bananas have to be kept in climate control? And it's super technical about, how long they have to be kept at a certain temperature before moved to a certain temperature before taken to the grocery store. And the people that are in there working these jobs, a lot of them have associate degrees. And it's not just forklift operators, but people have to make sure these bananas and other, temperature controlled products are moved at the appropriate time. They make good money, very good money. And the truck drivers start out making $70,000 a year and they come back the same day. And they top out right now to about $100,000 a year. So if you're a truck driver, you're going to make $70,000 to $100,000 a year at a company provides you benefits in an area where the cost of living is not that high. Those are good jobs. And you could be a truck driver for, a period of time and think, okay, I want to move up into senior management. I'm going to go part-time and complete my my undergrad degree. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. So, we're doing a lot of things right, but we have to look at what jobs are in demand currently. What companies are coming here? What do they need? What does Toyota need? What all these other companies need? What does biopharmaceutical need? That's one. So that's A. But then B is, where are we going to go? Like you said, the end in mind. Where we see ourselves in 5 or 10 years down the road? How do we get ahead of that curve? So just something to think about.
Yeah, very good description of using the Publix example there moving forward. And I wish more people would be thinking with that end in mind in regards to what I study now and decisions that I make in the work in my educational attainment level relate to my future earnings and vocational opportunities.
Stuart, let me say one more thing here.
Yeah.
Before I know we got a little bit more time. So
right.
we have a program. It's called the apprenticeship program. That's regional across different regions across the state. In this particular region, we have the Guilford Apprenticeship Partners, where you have private companies. And I believe Honda Jet's one, Brady Train does HVAC, they're one, Machine Specialty, I mentioned before, is one. So they partner with the community college system. And then there's also state funding goes into this. And so what happens is you have students typically coming out of high school, age 18, 19, and they matriculate in this 2-year program where what they do is they'll go to the community college and they actually will go to class to an extent, but then they also go and work at the company. And this happens over 2 years. As an apprentice, they make a little money, which pays their tuition. They graduate within about 2 years with a degree, and they have hands-on education, and they have an applicable education.
Right.
And a lot of times they get hired right away. Now, I was out at a restaurant not too long ago, and I ran into a young man, I believe he's in his early 20s, who told me he went through this program. He said, Representative Hardster, I want to thank you for this because of what y'all did for the funding and the budget. I've got a job, and I won't mention his name, but he works locally. He said, I'm in my mid-20s, I'm making $80,000 a year. My wife is a teacher. She's making probably, close to 60,000. So think about that for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their household income, is close to 150K, and they have a child, they have another on the way, and with our tax system in North Carolina, where they can, if they can't benefit from the deduction, like mortgage deduction, things like that, the standard deduction is up. So if you don't benefit from itemizing, our standard deductions are way up right now. So I mean, that's a good living. And $80,000 is what he's making. I think if I remember correctly, I think he's like 23, 24 years old. That's pretty good. Yeah. And his
really
wife is a public school teacher and has good health insurance. So it's just great to see those stories, and who knows where they're going to go in the next 10 years. He might go get and he actually mentioned it. He's like, I may actually go get my my graduate degree at some point, go to school part-time, work up. Again, different career pathways, but he's got a job right now that is in demand, that's needed. He's doing well. The company's benefiting from it. And then there's going to be options for him down the road. And that's just one story.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned the apprenticeship program. I'm sorry to have overlooked that because that is so critical. That's one thing in the U.S. we could do a better job of emulating in Europe. It's pretty standard over there in that part of the world. And I come to one of the individuals I enjoy reading a lot about in leadership is John Maxwell, and he talks a lot about the best way to train people is you watch me do it, I watch you do it, you go do it. It's pretty simple to train people in that particular way. You watch me do it, I watch you do it, you go do it. And that's essentially what the apprenticeship program is. And we really need to do more of that, especially in these fields where we have a lot of baby boomers that are retiring. And there is a huge void just because of those individuals exiting with those years of service to try and get more younger people in the mix there.
Right.
So
totally agree.
Okay. Well, we're almost at the end of our time here. I think I've gotten through all the questions from our audience, but I just wanted to give you one last opportunity. Is there anything else that we haven't covered that you think that it is important for the audience to be aware of? Advice for college age students, K-12 individuals, businesses, parents. What is it that you would like to leave them with?
So we've covered a lot of ground. One thing that I will mention is Project Kitty Hawk. So Project Kitty Hawk is funded by the General Assembly. It was requested by the UNC system. It's being launched this year, and it's funded. I think the total startup cost over, I believe, 5 years is going to be about $90 million in taxpayer money from the General Assembly. What that program will do is it's online education, and it'll be provided by the system office through every single UNC campus. Now, we do have online education currently. What this program does specifically is there will be a team that will reach out and try to find people in North Carolina who have some college experience but did not obtain a degree, and says, we want to bring you back. We want you to complete your degree. And if you can't go in person, here's an online program that'll have a central hub, Project Kitty Hawk, And I'm really excited about this because there are thousands of people out there, tens of thousands across the state, who have some college education,
Mm,
but did not complete their degree.
mm,
So
mm.
that's going to open a lot of doors. And a lot of those could be people that have decent jobs now. Maybe they have their, like you said, they got an associate's degree, went to college, didn't quite finish. Bring them back, let them get a degree, because that could open up doors for them, down the road. So, I mean, that's one thing. But of course, the other
Yeah,
thing
that
too,
yeah, I would just interrupt and interject and say that those are the individuals, folks that have some form of higher education but don't have the degree that struggle the most with student loan default and also limited job opportunities as well. So heck of a program there. I'd love to learn more about that.
yeah, super excited about that. But just to quickly recap, not increasing tuition rates in the UNC system for 7 years across every campus, increasing the need-based scholarship for middle to low-income students, both public and private schools, everything we're doing in the community college system. Like I said, I think we just have to do a better job of educating students going back to middle school. We focus a lot on high school. We got to go back, start middle school, and then educate the parents as well. I'm excited. We got a great system in North Carolina, and there's certainly some adjustments have to be made. You have to be very cognizant of the future, and we're, like you said, start with the end in mind. But we're doing a lot of things right in North Carolina.
I concur with that, John, and I appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing your knowledge and insight with us. And we hope to have you back again at some point. But just for all those that are still on, I just wanted to say our next ROCS webinar is going to be with the new Director of Undergraduate Career Services at the University of Virginia, and also the Director of Career Services in the Business School at Virginia Tech. Yes, we can get Virginia and Virginia Tech people together under one place, despite being rivals. And we're going to have a great conversation about what can you expect for young people graduating, entering the workforce in May, June after graduation, and what the outlook is for college graduates moving forward. So there'll be more information on that as well. So again, thanks for your time. Thank you, John, for carving out time out of your busy schedule to come and talk to us and share this. And we hope to see everyone soon. Thank you.
Thank you.